Officer Jake Harper was on patrol on a warm summer evening in Boston. He had been a police officer for 8 years and loved helping people. He always wanted to make his city safe and happy. As he cruised through the neighborhood, his radio crackled with urgency. "Officer down! No, wait! A man is having a heart attack at Lincoln Park. Please hurry!" Jake flipped on his sirens and sped toward the park. The streets blurred past him, and his heart pounded. Saving lives was part of his job, but something about this call felt different. When he arrived at the park, a small crowd was gathered near a picnic bench. People pointed toward a man lying on the ground, gasping for air. He was black, tall, and looked to be in his 30s. Jake rushed over, kneeling beside him. "Sir, can you hear me?" Jake asked, his voice calm but firm. The man barely nodded, his face pale with pain. Jake radioed for an ambulance and immediately began chest compressions. As Jake worked to save the man, he noticed something strange. The man's face, it looked familiar, too familiar. Jake brushed off the thought. His focus needed to be on keeping the man alive. The ambulance arrived moments later, and the paramedics took over. Jake watched as they loaded the man onto the stretcher. Just before they closed the ambulance doors, Jake saw the man open his eyes slightly and mouth the words, "Thank you." Jake stayed behind to calm the crowd. As people started leaving, an older woman approached him. She had tears in her eyes and a photo in her hand. "Thank you for helping him," she said. "You're not going to believe this, but he's your twin brother." Jake froze. "What?" He looked at the picture in her hand. It showed 2 baby boys, both with big brown eyes and the same crooked smile he saw every day in the mirror. "That's impossible," Jake stammered. The woman smiled sadly. "No, it's not. I'm your birth mother. You were adopted as a baby, Jake. His name is James, and I never stopped searching for you." Jake's legs felt like jelly. He had so many questions, but before he could say anything, his radio buzzed again. It was the hospital. They needed him to come immediately. Jake's hands trembled as he held the radio. He barely managed to respond. "On my way." Turning back to the woman, he asked, "You're sure about this? About me? About him?" She nodded, her eyes full of warmth and sorrow. "I'll explain everything at the hospital. Go. He needs you." Jake jumped into his squad car, his mind racing. A twin brother? Adopted? None of it made sense. He always believed he knew everything about his life. His parents, had never mentioned anything like this. The car's engine roared as Jake sped toward the hospital, questions buzzing louder than the sirens. At the hospital, Jake rushed into the emergency room. A nurse directed him to the waiting area, where doctors were working on James. Jake stood outside the glass door, his heart pounding in his chest. Through the window, he saw James hooked up to machines, breathing steadily but still unconscious. The older woman arrived moments later, clutching a worn leather bag. Jake turned to her, his voice shaky. "Okay, start talking. How is this possible? Why didn't anyone tell me?" She opened her bag and pulled out a folder filled with documents and photographs. "You and James were born in the same hospital," she explained softly. "I was a young mother, and I couldn't afford to take care of both of you. A family came forward, your parents, and adopted you. It was a closed adoption. I wasn't allowed to contact you, but I never stopped looking." Jake stared at the documents. Birth certificates, old hospital records, photos of him as a baby, photos he had never seen before. He felt a lump in his throat. "But why didn't anyone tell me I had a twin?" She looked at him with tear-filled eyes. "I don't know why they didn't, but now you know, and now you can help him. He's had a hard life, Jake. He needs his brother." Before Jake could respond, a doctor stepped out of the room. "Are you Officer Harper?" "Yes," Jake said, standing quickly. "Your brother is stable for now, but his condition is serious. He'll need surgery to repair the damage to his heart. We'll keep you updated." Jake nodded, trying to process everything. "My brother." The words felt strange, but also right. The older woman gently touched his arm. "Jake, I've waited a lifetime for this moment. For you two to meet. Please don't walk away." Jake looked through the glass window again at James. He didn't feel like a stranger anymore. He felt like someone Jake needed to protect. He took a deep breath and said, "I'm not walking away. Not now, not ever." Jake stayed by the window, watching his brother sleep. James looked so much like him. Same jawline, same thick eyebrows, even the same little scar above his right eye. It was uncanny, and yet Jake felt a deep warmth growing in his chest. The older woman, who had revealed herself as their birth mother, sat beside Jake quietly. She held her leather bag tightly, as though it held all the memories she wished she could have shared with them both. Jake finally broke the silence. "So, what happens now? After the surgery, I mean?" She gave him a small, hopeful smile. "That depends on you and James. He's been through a lot, Jake. Life wasn't kind to him. He's worked hard, but he's always been alone. Maybe this is a chance for both of you to have something you didn't before?" Jake nodded, feeling a mix of guilt and determination. He had lived a good life, with loving parents and opportunities James hadn't had. But now he had a chance to make things right, to build something new with the family he didn't know he had. Hours passed before the doctor returned. "The surgery went well. He'll need rest and rehabilitation, but he's going to be okay." Relief washed over Jake. "Can I see him?" he asked. The doctor nodded. "He's still groggy, but you can go in." Jake walked into the room, his heart pounding. James opened his eyes slowly, his gaze locking onto Jake's. For a moment, they just stared at each other. "Hey," Jake said softly, pulling up a chair beside the bed. "How are you feeling?" James blinked a few times, his voice hoarse. "Like I got hit by a truck." He paused, studying Jake's face. "Wait, you're the cop who saved me, right?" Jake smiled. "Yeah, that's me. But there's more to it than that." He hesitated, then added, "I'm your brother, James. Your twin brother." James's eyes widened, and for a moment he looked like he didn't believe it. Then a small, shaky laugh escaped him. "Twin brother? You're kidding." "I'm not," Jake said, pulling out one of the baby photos their mother had shown him. He handed it to James, whose hands trembled as he held it. "It's real. I didn't know until today either." James stared at the photo, tears welling in his eyes. "All these years, I thought I was alone." "Not anymore," Jake said firmly. "We've got a lot to figure out, but we'll do it together. You're stuck with me now." James laughed weakly, and for the first time, Jake saw a spark of hope in his eyes. Their mother stepped into the room, her face glowing with emotion. "Both of my boys," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Jake reached for her hand, then for James's. The three of them sat there, connected by the bond they had almost lost forever. And for the first time, Jake felt like his life was truly complete. Thank you for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, don't hesitate to like the video and share it with your friends too. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell for more fascinating stories. Have a nice day.